This is the literally unplayable druid build for world versus world roaming. The reason why I call this the literally unplayable build is because it combines immobilize and daze, which essentially become a stun. Because you have so much access to these two, you can lock down your opponent and finish them off before they can even get a chance to play. Sounds fun, right? Well, to your opponents, it won't be. The main idea of this build is you use lots of dazes, and daze duration increases with the Ancient Seeds Immobilize to lock down your targets and land your burst damage within your crit enhancing buffs. Then you kite and survive with the sustain of Celestial Avatar and super speed until you can land your CC burst again. There are two variants to this build. There is the solo roamer and the small scale group support. You can do both with each version, but if you wanted to specialize for one, then the option is there. The first is the solo roamer, which uses half Crusader armor and half Berserker. Because you need the extra damage to be able to finish kills alone, I like to go around 35 crit chance, and then you'll get Fury, which will put you to about 55% crit chance, but you're going to get a lot more crit chance from the rest of the build. The reason is because Crusader will essentially give you toughness and healing power, which are really good stats on the druid, but then you also get power and ferocity. But because if you take the marksmanship trait line, you will get opening strike, which will give you 100% crit chance on your next attacks. So you essentially can make up that crit chance from the marksmanship trait line. I take the rune of the Dolyak because the extra toughness helps, and the small amount of regeneration is very important to generating your astral force to enter Celestial Avatar. I take Greatsword with the Paralyzation and Absorption sigils because the focus on locking down the target is really good with those sigils. And Paralyzation also does not say that it does daze duration. It only says stun, but if you look at the wiki, it will increase the daze duration, which can be devastating when combined with your other daze duration increases from Moment of Clarity. On the Longbow, I take Cleansing and Vision sigil. Vision gives 100% crit chance for 3 seconds when swapping into the weapon, so you want to immediately make use of this to land your rapid fire crits. Also, when entering or exiting Celestial Avatar, it will trigger your sigils, so long as they aren't on internal cooldown. So sometimes you can enter into Longbow, use your rapid fire burst, then when the sigil is almost off cooldown, you can precast your barrage and then go into CA and get all those crits on your barrage. Or you can enter into CA before the internal comes off and stay in it for a bit, then leave and use rapid fire again with the sigil. The other version is just going to be full Crusaders to have more healing power, and you can use a staff instead of a longbow for more mobility and support capabilities. You can still use the Dolyak rune, or you can use Mesmer rune for even more daze duration, but I felt that I was a bit too squishy when I had Mesmer rune unless I had full Crusader armor, but then didn't do enough damage to care about the daze duration when I went for full Crusaders anyways. The traits are Beast Mastery, Marksmanship, and Druid. The Marksmanship trait line is all about getting Fury and Opening Strikes. Opening Strike will make your next attack crit and give vulnerability and cripple to the target. Ruthlessness will give your opening strikes 25% more damage, and whenever you gain Fury, you gain Opening Strike. This is where you get a lot of your burst damage, and playing around your Fury applications will help you to maximize your burst. Moment of Clarity grants longer daze duration and extra damage on your next attack when you interrupt a target. Because you have such long daze durations, this can help you lock down targets and land your Ancient Seeds more reliably, which is going to give you more chances of hitting them if the daze is longer. Then, swapping pets will cast Clarion Bond, which will give swiftness, fury, and might, and also weaken enemies. This is also a blast finisher, so you can combo that with your smoke field or even your Celestial Avatar by swapping pet at the right timing for maximum synergy. Because Pet Swap has no cast time, the Fury application is also really great for precasting into your big burst to give you an opening strike at a moment's notice. Now as a druid, your pet loses 20% of its attributes, but it can still be very powerful with the Beast Mastery trait increases. You just need to be very careful with your pet control because there are a lot of situations where your pet can die in World vs. World, so always be aware of its positioning. In Beast Mastery, you get Resounding Timber to improve your command abilities and give you some nice regen uptime, which is important to your Celestial Avatar generation. Also, regeneration scales very well with healing power, so your sustain with Crusader stats is great. You also get Two-Handed Training, which increases your Greatsword skill damage and lowers its cooldowns. And also when you disable an enemy on any weapon, you will gain Fury on a 10-second ICD. Another Fury application to get your Ruthlessness opening strike procs. Then you get Quickness on your pet swap. In Druid, I take Druidic Clarity for the Insane Condition Cleanse, which you can get at least every 10 seconds, and Celestial Shadow for the Stealth and Super Speed when you leave CA, for more juke potential and even playmaking where you can get reses or stomps with stealth. Finally, you take Ancient Seeds, the main reason this build locks down enemies so well. When you hit an enemy who is CC'd, you will summon Binding Roots around them, which immobilize for at least 5 seconds. It doesn't even need to be one of your CCs, just hitting someone who is CC'd by anyone will trigger this trait, which makes it super good in groups in World vs. World because you can pick off targets very easily with the Immobilize, which helps to isolate enemies from their team's movement. Also, because you have so much daze duration on this build, you can daze and immobilize, which means they can't move or dodge and they can't cast skills. So essentially it's a better stun. They can cleanse the immob and move away from the roots, or they can kill the roots to stop getting immobed, but it will be very hard for them to do that while getting dazed. Be careful though, these binding roots do a small packet of damage which will reveal you from stealth, and there's a lot of stealth on this build. If you're kiting and want to CC someone, try not hitting them to proc Ancient Seeds if you really need the stealth to get away. First, the Greatsword is your main weapon because the Maul ability is such a hard-hitting singular attack, which means it gets a lot of value out of the 100% crit chance that you get from the Ruthlessness trait. So it can hit for like 4k there, as you can see, and it's very easily spammable with a 4-second cooldown. Then you have Swoop, which is a really great skill because it has potential for mobility, it has an evade at the very end of it, and you can use it to swoop through your smoke scale F2, which is a smoke field, so you will get the stealth off of that. Counterattack is a powerful block which has a 3-second duration, and if you successfully block an attack, you can use the knockback to set up your CC burst combos. Hilt Bash is very important to the lockdown potential of this build. If you hit them from behind, it is a very long stun duration, but if you hit them from the front, it is a very long daze duration. But if you daze someone and then you immobilize them, it's pretty much a stun anyways, so it doesn't really matter where you hit them, but it will also recharge your Maul if you land Hilt Bash. So what you can do is Maul, Hilt Bash, and then Maul, and you get a lot of damage just from doing 2 Mauls very quickly. On Longbow, you generally want to be using the auto attack instead of rapid fire because of the Ruthlessness giving you more synergy on singular attacks, whereas rapid fire has more split up and multiple hits. However, when you swap to the Longbow, you do want to use your rapid fire while you have the vision sigil up, so prioritize that. Hunter Shot will give you stealth, which is kind of nice, but you have to land it, and Point Blank Shot is a knockback, which is really great for landing your Ancient Seeds. Barrage is sort of like rapid fire where it isn't that great with low crit chance, but you can still do a decent amount of damage with it, especially if you precast it into your Celestial Avatar, which you can also get your Vision Sigil on. Celestial Avatar is the main mechanic of druids. It requires them to build up astral force by damaging or healing allies. Smaller packets of healing and damage will grant much more astral force than one large attack, which is why Regeneration and Dolyak rune and Mango Pies are really powerful on this build. You can essentially build up your astral force by sharing regeneration to nearby allies with commands and won't need to even think about this resource. When you go into Celestial Avatar, you will of course get all of the traits that proc when going in and out of it, but you'll also change your skill bar to more supportive abilities. The one skill is pretty negligible, but Seed of Life is very potent. It may look small and ineffectual, but it gives 3 condition cleanse and blind to enemies after a short delay. Because it is such a short cast time, you can put these out for little investment, but you need to position yourself to be in them when they go off. Lunar Impact is a powerful ability as it is a wide AoE heal and daze. It peels hard for you and your allies. It is a blast finisher also, so you can use it in your smoke scale F2 to get stealth very reliably. Rejuvenating Tides isn't amazing, but use it if you really need to heal and support allies, and you can swap pet in the middle of the animation to blast it for more healing. Finally, there is Natural Convergence. Give yourself stability while standing still and pulse out AoE damage, cripple, and slow. If the final pulse lands, you will immobilize your targets. This is one of the more powerful abilities because when you already have your target immobilized, you can put much more on them while also hitting them with slows to prevent counter pressure and letting your pet freely wail on them. You can choose to cancel this early just to get a bit of stability and slow out, or wait the entire duration for the big hit at the end. Try not to cancel the final pulse early if you sat through the entire animation for it. The skills I take are We Heal as 1 for the boon synergy. The best time to use this is right after a pet swap because you get all of those boons from your pet swapping, such as quickness, might, fury, swiftness, and your pet will also get them because We Heal as 1 shares them to your pet. Protect Me is just a super safe stun break with barrier. Signet of Renewal is another source of small ticking heals that grant you Celestial Avatar quickly, and it's a stun break that can give you another full cleanse if your Celestial Avatar is on cooldown. You just need to be near your pet to be able to use it, and the pet needs to be alive. Then there's Glyph of Equality, which is a stun break with no animation, and it will daze nearby enemies for a really long time. It can be used in the middle of an animation, say your Maul skill, to get the Fury from the disable, and it will give you the Ruthlessness proc without really the enemy being able to predict that it's about to happen. So you can get really big burst combos and land your Ancient Seeds with almost no animation. Also, when you're in Celestial Avatar, Glyph of Equality will just break stun for your allies, so generally you want to be using this out of Celestial Avatar. Finally, take Strength of the Pack, which is a good stability and might source, but you could technically take Entangle if you wanted more Immobilize, but I feel the build has enough of that and not enough stability. Strength of the Pack also gives Fury, which is more Ruthlessness procs. As far as the pets I take the Smoke Scale and the Gazelle. The Smoke Scale is obviously for the smoke field, which you can use your swoop through, you can pet swap in the F2, and you can use the Lunar Impact in the F2 for stealth uptime. There's a lot of stealth on this build. And then you obviously can use the F1 on the pet, and it'll port to the target. So it's really good at chasing targets. And then it'll do a knockdown usually after the port, so you can actually cancel the kind of smoke assault thing there and get the knockdown very well timed. And then you have the Gazelle, which is really good because it has a charge attack that will daze, so it doesn't do 0 damage, it does quite a bit of damage, and with the Ruthlessness proc, it can do quite a bit of damage. As you can see there, it did like 2.8k. It can do a lot more if you got a Moment of Clarity proc up from interrupting someone. So the Gazelle is just really good because it has so much CC on it. It has the F2, which is kind of hard to land, but if the target is already immobilized, then it'll be easy for the Gazelle to land its F2, and you can knock people while they're already immobilized. And it just has so much CC to help you lock down your targets, and you just gain control of the situations very easily. The basic combo of the build is generally you want to be doing your Longbow 4 into the immobilized from afar, and then once you immobilize them like that, you can go in with your rapid fire if you have your vision sigil up, or you can just go in and swoop, for example, and then what you can do is Glyph of Equality right before the swoop lands, and that would daze them and disable them, which would make your swoop get a proc on Ruthlessness, or you could just use it on Maul and get it on that. And then usually what you'll do there is while they're immobilized, you'll hilt bash them, and then you'll use your Maul again. So then you've got your second Maul out. From there, you can go into either Celestial Avatar, or you can go back into the Longbow and you can use your Vision Sigil on your rapid fire. And then once your Longbow is about to come off cooldown, you can precast Barrage. So what I'll do is, usually it's really easy to get Celestial Avatar, but since I'm hitting a golem and nothing's hitting me, I'm not healing. So it's gonna not get my avatar up as easily as I want. But from there you can precast your Barrage, and then what I'll do is I'll go into CA, and then that'll proc my Vision Sigil. So as you can see here, I'm barraging, and then I'll go into CA and use my Celestial Avatar 5, and that does a ton of damage. You do your seeds, and then you can blast the seeds, and then pet swap in your F2, use your seeds as much as you can, and then, you know, use your natural convergence to basically lock down enemies further while they are immobilized from the CC of your lunar impact. And remember, all you need to do to proc Ancient Seeds is hit them once while they're dazed. So after the lunar impact hits, you don't really need to position your natural convergence too well. You just need to be in range to hit one tick while they're dazed, and then they'll get immobilized, and then you can land the entire natural convergence. You can juke with your stealth access and even hide your greatsword animations while you're in stealth, because there is so much stealth access on this build. So you do want to think about how you can land your greatsword too, because that is your main ability. But also, yeah, you have lots of ways to do it. So this is a 1v1 with a Condi Rev, and the issue that I have with Condi Revs is that my pet will die. So I really want to play around either CCing the Rev so they can't free cast on my pet, because if my pet dies then I don't get pet swap, which denies me of a lot of my boons and capabilities and playmaking. So I do want to use my CA abilities to heal my pet, but this Rev is really getting locked down and they're struggling to even use skills. So yeah, the pet's getting attacked right now. I have to heal them or swap the pet right before the cooldown comes off. Yeah, I swapped the pet there in my CA4, and I'm just trying to heal my pet, making sure that it survives that 15 seconds until the cooldown comes back up. Because if I lose my pet, then it's way longer cooldown, and then yeah, I will start losing the 1v1. So I do tank a lot of conditions here, but I have my CA up, my pet swap comes off cooldown. I'm gonna stand in the seed there during my natural convergence, because I know that this Condi Rev has a lot of condition application. I precast my barrage while they're in their block, but yeah, I land a really good maul into that hilt bash, and at this point they're dazed so much that they can barely attack. I'm gonna land one more maul, but they have their sword 3 to avoid that. I land my natural convergence, which gets them immobilized, and now they can just be finished off with my gazelle and my greatsword. So here is a 1v1 against a spellbreaker. Usually this is a bad matchup for a ranger because the warrior has so much damage they can just shrug off the pet, and they can proc full counter very easily off of the pet. Also, with my build, there's a lot of immobilize that warriors usually can get out of the immobilize very easily, so I'm going to have trouble locking them down unless I get them out of cooldowns. So they rampage here, I use my block there, I try not to get CC'd, and I do get knocked there, so I use my stun breaks. I land a really good maul there with the precast of the Glyph of Equality, and that allows me to land so much of my damage. So I fully heal here, and I'm eating a lot of axe damage here. I swap my pet, but I'm a little bit, I'm not the best ranger. I mess up the timing there on my combo, and I land a really good knockback there, get a little bit of damage on my rapid fire, and then I precast Barrage into my CA5, and they don't want to get near me, but they do take the final hit for 3k damage. I dodge the bull's charge, and I'm just spamming out my rapid fire. My pet is on top of them. They're gonna rampage, and I'm trying to survive with my block. I go into CA just to get some stability and healing to survive the rampage. I go in stealth and use my maul while in stealth, but they block it, and I tank a massive axe ability there, and I use maul again, but yeah, I'm taking so much damage to their evades. I need to be playing a little bit better there. I land a really good CA3 to heal me and go in stealth to try to reset, but I am really low. I have to play very carefully here. I swap pet and use my smoke skill thing, but yeah, I don't get the stealth from the Greatsword 3, and that means that when I go into CA to get my CA3 off, I'm not in stealth and I get rushed and die. So a little bit of mistake there by me for not having or waiting until my swoop was in range of the F2 to use it, so I didn't get the stealth and I got hit and died. Here's a 1v1 with a core necromancer. Now they're running the staff and they're running the plague signet, so they can do a lot of transfers on my immobilize, so I'm trying to play around their conditions very often on this build, and when I go into CA, that allows me to play around a lot of their condition burst, and that's really the most dangerous thing about the Condi Necro is really the burst of the conditions. So they go into Lich, they're using their auto attacks here. I have to be very careful. I put slow on them and get a little bit of cleanse from my seeds here. I have to play very carefully because yeah, they do a lot of condition bursts. I use my signet of renewal there to get all of those Condis off, so that's a really good use of it there. Even though I lose the healing over time, it was worth it to get out of that. Now they go into full shroud here. I try to daze them and get the immobilized so that I can lock them down. Necromancers don't have access to stun breaks while in shroud, so it's really good to use dazes on them during that time. I get a nice knockback into a maul, but they're still in shroud this entire time. I use a seed, but I'm immobilized out of it, so I am not in a good position here. I actually land a really good hilt bash though, and they're going to be ancient seeded, but I knock them away. They use their putrid mark and I tank a lot of my conditions that I gave them, so that's not good. Now I take a lot of Condis there. I go into CA and I daze them, so now we have a really good immobilize from the ancient seeds, and I can rapid fire on them and I can daze them because they can't really do much while they're in shroud to remove that. So they're pretty much CC'd here. They plague signet all of my immobilize back. I cleanse it and then use my CA3 to blast stealth. I've basically got a full reset here, and I land a really good maul from stealth. I dodge their weakness from the weakening shroud, and I get a really good immobilize. I dodge the putrid mark there to prevent getting immobilized, and that really taxes them of a lot of their health. So I have CA here as well. I swoop into my F2 from the pet, and I'm just going to wait till the Necro uses all their Condis on me to go into CA. And if they don't, then I will just finish them off like this, keep dazing them, and at this point they're really out of cooldowns. I land a really good maul. I point blank shot and rapid fire with the Vision Sigil. So yeah, that's pretty much how the build works. If you have any more questions, you can join my Discord and ask them there. And if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and consider becoming a patron. I would greatly appreciate it. Check out the links below, and I will see you all next time.